Hello, everyone, and welcome to Media History, lesson number 3. And in the past, if you wanted to send a message to a large group of people, it will require a great deal of logistics and hard work. When we look back, whether it is thousands or hundreds years ago, we can see that the way societies communicated represented and shaped their evolution, cultures, lifestyle, complexity, and what was considered sophistication at that time. Well, throughout history, advanced technology and discoveries contributed to mass communication immensely. So let's see where we started and where we are today. During the period of ancient civilization, we're talking about the nomadic era, for example, the Stone Age, the Classical era, the Middle Age, and so forth. Ancient, ancient people drew images and symbols on walls to record and preserve messages that told stories. Later, the oral media culture was developed, and storytellers and speakers who specialized in the oratory art were sending messages and telling stories as means of communication. Later, when the alphabet was discovered, laws and important announcements were carved in stone or on metal sheets, papyrus, and many other writing materials. We also know that scribes used to write messages and information on those mediums, which is which in itself was an innovative, great way of communicating at that time. But it was really hard and time consuming. Now, distributing those copies was also time consuming and difficult. At that time, horses, mules, relay runners, state messengers, and trade ships were used to move messages and goods from one place to another. So you can just imagine how slow and limited dissemination of information would be at that time. Um, it stays this way until the printing press was invented in 1450 by Johannes Gutenberg, along with the steam engine that came later on and helped advance mass communication to be more widespread. It brought about a new era of great significance. Those discoveries enabled the production of multiple identical copies in larger quantities, and of course, in a faster, easier, and more efficient fashion than ever before. Uh, with the years, mass communication grew even more in the 19th centuries during the during the Industrial Revolution period. Many advanced innovations contributed to even more extensive mass communication. These are the years that enable people access to independent news coverage and political commentary. The new profession of journalism was born, and newspapers become big businesses. Mass information was not considered literature anymore. Photography was also introduced. The new automatic and mechanical model of mass production during this time had enormous effect on efficient printing techniques, as well as on creating, distributing, and transporting information to large audiences. First, let's look at what else happened during the 19th century. Many more discoveries are introduced. So we're talking about the steam engine train, the high-speed printing press, no more hand-operated wooden press, photography, as we mentioned before, electronics like the telegraph, fax machine, telephone, and motion picture film. All the innovations that we actually take for granted today. The telegraph, with all its limitations, at that time was the innovation that accelerated the dissemination of information from a few days, weeks, or months to only a few hours. News would be reported, written, delivered for printing, and be ready for readers in around a half a day. In other words, each innovation and discovery allowed better and better efficient technology towards large-scale mass communication. During the 20th century, mega innovations were introduced to the masses. We know radio and television. First the radio, then the television set, the tube that broadcasted and distributed news entertainment, political and social messages simultaneously to dispersed audiences through these electronic mass communication mediums. Um, they became commodities, money-making businesses, advertisement and commercials yield enormous amount of revenue to these new means of communication that can sell time to those interested businesses um, who were looking to reach and promote their products actually to larger audiences and bring in more businesses. Um, Between the 50s and the 80s, TV stays the major favorite medium of consumers and became the most dominating means of communication. At that time in the United States, there were three major independent, private, on the air, free commercial broadcasting TV networks. We call them the big three. Those are the CBS, NBC, and ABC. They enjoy this oligopoly for a while. And we should mention here that there was also a public educational TV network. It is a nonprofit entity supported mainly by public donations. And later on, the name changed to PBS, and that is how it stayed until to this day. Um, and there came the competition. Um, no more oligopoly in the 80s and the 90s. Cables and satellite network appeared, and they were biting chunks in these big three money-making machines. Cable TV and satellites channels were private entities. They were not free to subscribers who paid for these services. Um, Nevertheless, they offered better signals, more channel choices to watch, better pictures and sound quality. And you could now watch TV 24 hours a day. What else? Narrowcasting. What is narrowcasting media? Unlike the traditional broadcasting networks that attracted all social groups of society and produced mostly family interest programs, cable and satellite provided niche services that appealed to narrow demographic audiences which were thirsty for more programs of their interests, such as specific sports, history, geography, movies, music channels like At that time, MTV was the first music channel, and so forth. Even news is produced through these mediums, and like CNN, Fox News, among others. And this is exactly what the new networks were all about. They gave viewers plenty of choices. Audiences at this point are fragmented, and all networks are competing to get viewers' attention. And of course, time to get their time while constantly targeting them with suitable ads. As the internet entered our lives, many changes had occurred. The internet became a multi-channel to the new and the traditional mediums. Digital technology has accelerated the access to information from all over the world, anytime, anywhere, on any forms of media, on cell phones, tablets, computers, and so forth. In addition, every one of us became a media creator, a reporter, and now is also sharing information. We've never seen such a saturation of information thrown at us before the internet. A number of phenomena started to rise. In addition, media convergence is one. Up until the time of the internet, different mediums were discrete. All communication mediums were separate entities, and there was no connection between television or radio or book publishers and all of these. But now with the internet, they're all unified through that one channel we call the internet. You can now find any book, any newspaper, any television program, and more uh, media on the internet. The second phenomenon is media globalization. Media organizations are operating now globally. For example, CNN, PayPal, eBay, etc. Ordinary people are now interacting, sharing, and finding information through common search engines, websites, social media like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and alike. And the internet also becomes a huge space of commerce. You can find buying and selling communities, advertising, government services spaces, online banking, even online doctor visits. Access to an immense amount of information is also something we have never experienced before. And people nowadays are no longer dependent on time set programs or services or knowledge and all the things that are coming from traditional sources. Now, is this progress in mass media communication all wonderful and rosy? Are all these media organizations operating in the public interest as it should be, ideally? Well, keep this question in mind. By the end of this course, you will be able to answer it. This is it for this lesson. Our next lesson, lesson number 4, is going to be about media ownership. And so have a wonderful day.